Today on CryptoX, let's talk FUD. Russia could launch an invasion any day, causing enormous human cost, as Russia has 70% of the military capabilities in place for a full-scale invasion. And think of the children. Mysterious TikTok videos are scaring Sweden's children. And in unrelated crypto news, want to know what it is? You just have to stay tuned and watch to the end of the video.
Ukrainian leaders now see that this appears to be an even bigger threat than they determined. What's your sense of how soon something could happen?
Well, Chuck, we're in the window where something could happen. That is, a military escalation, an invasion of Ukraine could happen at any time. We believe that the Russians have put in place the capabilities to mount a significant military operation into Ukraine, and we have been working hard to prepare a response. President Biden has rallied our allies. He's reinforced and reassured our partners on the eastern flank. He's provided material support to the Ukrainians, and he's offered the Russians a diplomatic path if that's what they choose instead. But either way, we are ready, our allies are ready, and we're trying to help the Ukrainian people get ready as well.
Russia now has 70% of the military capabilities in place for a full-scale invasion. US officials say they don't know if Putin has made a final decision on any type of military action. President Joe Biden's national security and intelligence teams are calculating various scenarios and potential outcomes. Russia continues to add forces to the region almost daily, according to US estimates, and could soon have enough to begin the operation. Given all Putin has moved, plus his public rhetoric on Ukraine and NATO, US officials widely believed he could soon make a decision, and it could be more likely than not he will move ahead.
In which he argues that the Ukrainians and the Russians are spiritually one people. And it's this reference also to the greater Russian spirituality. This is one of his many themes, that Russia is a more spiritual civilization than the decadent West.
If Putin was to unleash his full land and air military might on the Ukrainian capital of Kiev, the city may fall within 48 hours. They also calculate Putin could decide for a multi-pronged operation, sending in forces from several directions across Ukraine to quickly fracture the ability of Ukraine's military to fight as a cohesive force. A Russian strategy that is a classic military move.
We were given promises not to push the infrastructure of the NATO bloc to the east 1 inch. Everyone knows this well. Today, we see where NATO is located. Poland, Romania, the Baltic countries. They said one thing, they did another. As people say, they screwed us over.
Putin continues to add forces, combined arms, offensive capabilities. In a quote, he has shown no signs of being interested or willing to de-escalate the tensions.
Russia still narrates itself as a global power. It sees itself as one of the few truly independent powers that can define what others do in the world. And so even, the games that he plays locally, the real game is to get the attention and the status vis-a-vis the US and China. So Russia isn't just a regional or provincial power. It really does think of itself globally for better or usually for its neighbors for worse.
Putin has infantry and military forces, hundreds of fighter and bomber aircraft and attack helicopters at his disposal.
I think Putin probably, like most of us, has mixed motives. I think that the talk about Mother Russia and the spirituality is important. But I think he's never forgotten, and he lived through it, of course, that he was once the agent of a very powerful empire. He was in Dresden when the Cold War ended, and suddenly there were demonstrators outside. He was having to burn documents very quickly, and he'd gone from being the agent of a very powerful empire to being someone who had to get home. And I think that's really weighed on him. The disintegration of the Soviet Union, I think, was for him a catastrophe, as it was for many Russians. And the loss of their influence and empire in Eastern Europe, again, was something that many of them haven't forgotten. And so I think that's part of it. I think he also wants security, and that I think is understandable. When you think of how porous Russia's borders have been through much of history and how often Russia's been invaded, this is understandable. But it's the way he's doing it, which is actually, producing an alliance against him. And it is really quite wrong. This is, again, a typical example of the ways in which he will weave stories together with bits of false evidence. There was never a promise made that NATO would not move 1 inch eastwards. That promise was not made, and the Russians did not get that promise.
But what is he waiting for? The optimal time for a Russian invasion would be when the hard ground freezes. This will allow heavy equipment to rapidly move. US officials have said Putin would understand he needs to move by the end of March. And if he does, could that mark the end of the bull run? Russia plans very graphic fake video as a pretext for Ukraine's invasion.
I think what he wants to do is try in every way possible re-establish the influence that Russia used to have in the middle of the Soviet Union and recreate as much as he can a safe place for Russia. And I think he does. I think Peter Pomerantz is absolutely right. He does think, as Russia being a global power, even though its economy is shrinking, it's got demographic problems, it's not a match for either China or the United States, but he still thinks in those terms, very much, I think, because of his own experience.
Officials say they have evidence of a plot to mock up scenes of an attack using corpses. US officials claim they have evidence of a Russian plan to make a very graphic fake video of a Ukrainian attack as a pretext for an invasion. This will involve corpses, footage of blown up buildings, fake Ukrainian military hardware, Turkish-made drones, and actors playing the part of Russian-speaking mourners. We don't know for sure that this is the route that they will take, but what we do know is that this opinion is under consideration. Jonathan Feiner, the Deputy of National Security Advisor, also states the video would involve actors playing mourners for people who are killed in an event that they would have created themselves. John Kirby, the Pentagon spokesman, said the video would have perpetrated to show Ukrainian attack on Russian territory or Russian-speaking people in eastern Ukraine. He added that the US believed the plan had the backing of the Kremlin. Our experience is that very little of this nature is not approved at the highest levels of the Russian government, Kirby says. But what do the people of Russia think?
I try not to watch the news, she says. I think they're escalating it a lot. I believe very little of what they're showing. What the state media are saying, there's hardly any truth in it, he says. It's just information that plays into someone's hands.
Russia says it will never invade Ukraine unless it is provoked. So just in case it is provoked, it has massed over 100,000 troops on Ukraine's border. Chump. In other news, war is coming. Mysterious TikTok videos are scaring Sweden's children. It's affecting young children and young teenagers. The Swedes are wondering, is Russia about to attack their country? And it appears they got that idea from TikTok, as videos are now circulating suggesting war is coming. Other videos tell the Swedes that the Russian forces will bomb their country and may even invade. The Chinese-owned, algorithm-driven platform is in fact the perfect tool wishing to weaken another country's morale. I had no idea TikTok had an algorithm that's owned by China. Dangerous. As TikTok is growing ever popular, even I'm on it, and I love it. You can check it out in the description. And finally, the news you've all been waiting for. I got you, didn't I? You just had to know what it is. Well, brace yourself. Teacher accused of Glasgow prom night sex with pupil. Yes, I see a lot of this. Sometimes it's good to take a break from crypto. So I thought I'd cover this today, as I always find these quite amusing. And why are the teachers always so goddamn smoking? Former high school PE teacher, I won't mention her name, now works as a yoga. Oh my days. A former pupil has claimed he had sex with his PE teacher, poor sod, after he drank pints, wine, rum and shots at a prom. Sounds like a night he'll never forget. The teacher was 23 at the time. Nice. And is alleged to have partied with pupils at the SWG3 nightclub in Glasgow before going back to the hotel. So it's not really that bad. Bad for her, the stigma attached to it. But for him, he's just the most popular kid in school. He says he felt sorry for the teacher, who is now 27 and being investigated. Well, it wouldn't disappoint me. If that happened to me in school, I guarantee I would have paid a lot more attention. And life would be a lot different now. Probably wouldn't be so boring. And remember, it's the memories you make that make life worth living. Cheers. Have a great day.